DC here. Hi, guys and gals. Well, hope you're all well. It is Sunday afternoon, and I'm just out on the grounds. Just get a bit of air. This morning being Sunday, this morning we were at church, and it was quite interesting as usual. I mean, so every week it's a different group that leads what we call the worship part, and so that's a large part of singing and praying. But there's this lady who does it. Her and her, I almost going to say her band. They're really, really good. They're very active and very uplifting music, and so it's always a lot of fun. It's a great time to have if you're bringing guests and they have young kids, they really enjoy it. Anyway, so that was a lot of fun, and anyway, we enjoyed ourselves. We had a little meeting after where we're getting ready for a little group. I mentioned that I think in a vlog a few weeks back. It's sometime in this spring we're going to be going a group from the church to Portugal, where one of the ladies, or a couple that we know, the lady is Portuguese, and we'll be going to the home of some of that family over there. But it's a group. I think we're going 10 people, something like that. 10 people plus the people. So we'll be around, 12 people, I think, all in all. We'll see. It'll be interesting what it's like. I mean, I've been to Spain, but Portugal, no, I've never been there. Yeah, you can probably see that that's the walnut tree in back to the nut tree. It's being trimmed. The gardeners came over. There's a certain amount of things I don't do anymore. I used to do this pear tree as well. Some of you might remember my tree vlogs, where I was, way up in the trees. I don't do that anymore. I can still do a tree vlog, but I'll be on a small ladder. I don't climb into them anymore. Yeah, I wonder how long it'll take before we get some birds again in this. Probably just in spring. Yep. I was within my the confines of my Spanish class, been going over historical things of the Mexican Revolution. It's actually very fun because it's history, but because there's like a kind of a congruency with today's world. It's a country, so we could say city versus countryside, and the tensions that it creates, and how that certain political parties came from that, and people were playing on the belief systems of the people at the time, the pit people against another. And we were talking about that, my Spanish professor and I, and then it's an actual thing today as well in society. And I was discussing about we were discussing about, we could almost say, different types of social constructs that were built onto, particularly in Mexico, but in other parts of the world. So after colonization, so colonials would basically build onto local belief systems or local politics and things like that, and change we could almost say change thinking patterns. And as we were saying, it's like in any conflict, any social conflict, any war, the winner writes history. It's a way of saying that. And so there's been a lot of that in discussion. And so you can see we're getting into pretty heavy type of topics. So I was talking about also the, um, you could say the deconstructionism of history also, or the rewriting of history by people that are these days canceling out historic facts. And the problem with that, of course, is that you might not like those facts, but they exist, and some facts actually don't need to be rewritten because they're true, and so on. So yeah, we get into some, like I say, we get into some pretty heavy discussions. I mean, there's one going on right now. We'll be discussing tomorrow. It's a big fiesta, religious fiesta, so to say, in Mexico. It's La Virgen de Guadalupe, and which basically is something that happened like 20 years after the Mexican conquest, and it's very reminiscent of Fatima or Medjugorje. Apparitions, so-called apparitions and miracles of the Virgin Mary, and so I won't get into discussions about beliefs or not. I mean, that's, if you're Catholic, probably you will believe it. If you're not, you will wonder about it. Put it that way. I won't go into that rabbit hole. But it's interesting because in Mexico, certain political parties came into apparition after that, and so on. So there's a lot going on. Yeah. Why am I talking about this? I don't know, actually. Maybe it's just because I just finished watching 2 YouTube videos on the topic, getting ready for tomorrow. Yeah. It kind of brings the follow-up. Last week there was a question in one of the tags about learning new things. And I think that the fact is that I was talking with Isaac, my Spanish professor, and was saying, well, the fact that I'm learning Spanish is one thing, but I didn't expect that learning Spanish would open the door for myself to Mexican history and the social aspects that surround all of this. So, sometimes you start learning something for a completely other reason. In my case, it was because I wanted to speak Spanish because it's the language of my daughter-in-law and her family. But it opened, completely something else, an interest. I had an interest in sociology and history and so on, and so does he. So, we ended up using that. I mean, learning Spanish and expanding on discussion points on things that we like. So what am I getting at? I think it's sometimes well worth getting into something because you might discover that through your new interests, you jump into something that you already liked, but you're into it in another way. Now, take, for example, if you're into computing, you might like all of a sudden doing 3D graphics, for example, and stuff like that. All of a sudden you're into art of another aspect or something like that. Anyway, I think I've been talking long enough. I really had no idea I was going to get up into this topic, but it's okay. It's all right. That's the whole idea of vlogging on Sunday. Okay, that'll be it. DC signing off. Take care, everybody, and have a good week. Bye.